Find the right now. Okay, yeah. Yeah. It's the other way. First. You'll still be doing those. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. 1,000%. I'm still an agent here. Still technically. Lover. Lover, yep. No idea. Not a single book in the world. That's pretty.
I know.
Yeah, this is the day. I'm trying day. Y'all get tacos today on top of it. I thought you were gonna be like, oh shit. I go like, you're really not? Oh, yeah, I really like it. I don't actually think I've ever heard someone in their right mind. All right. Oh my god. Oh, literal. Yeah. Great, fabulous. Marty and I will. Yeah. Hello. How are you? Your business partner? Of course, next time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I was supposed to get to a product. Cool. Meeting really like that. Well, it's not normally how it is. Normally, we have 30%. But, fun, go and talk to us. Oh, that's great. Hey, Bob. I will keep it safe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So apparently, Marty and I were leading this team meeting, so they just didn't show up. They also did with my last meeting on leadership, and they're like, yeah, bye. Later. Today's meeting, we're a little bit later. I know everyone's at Glover, but we still have quite a plan for you guys at lunch. So, let's do, oh, fun. I didn't even bring our giveaway item, so I'm a hot lunch today. Perfect. Available. All right, so either way, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. We'll still do our giveaway. Get you whoever wins at the top of the card. But that's okay. We can try to win today. Today is. All right, so next, gratitude. This is really fun because I can stare y'all down and make you say something. What are we grateful for? Yes. How does it feel? Oh, I love that. What's the next one? Anyone else? It was just that. It was my even a couple people I got a chance to. Easy for a first. Anyone else? You take one more, Jeannie. That the storm of the century that was supposed to happen yesterday. I'm hoping I'm gonna get a new roof. Yeah. Oh my God. I was expecting. Sponsor for today's meeting, Gary.
Okay, well, my name is Gary Christensen. I'm the owner and the inspector at Two Front Road. So we're a full service. Lightweight. Make their job. Inspector. Yeah, we call it a walk, talk about. Book that for a 60-minute. Yeah, that'd be the right scenario. Red flag issue. question? Don't working on it. Different cities only open up for application. So it's working on getting at least a for it. What it does. Full time inspectors and operations.
Generally.
10 Minnesota, but like I said, here in Twin Cities, Metro, whatever. For our people, should be question. Also, like system should be.
Like the.
What's the recommended R value for attic insulation? What's the minimum recommended R value? The depth. What?
Yeah.
Wait, so between 15 to 17. What invisible odorless gas? Household appliance common cause of water damage. Should a forced air gas burning furnace be professionally certified? Last one. What type of inspection uses the camera to examine the lunch coming? There's some goodies in the back. Help us brochures.
Who's taking me to coffee next? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Right. Yeah, let's go. All right. So now we're gonna bring up Marty. You can talk a little bit about intro to AI and how you use that in your business. Yeah. What was that called?
I walk up on, I don't know. I don't probably use AI to create.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, AI, everywhere. It's not going anywhere, except for we're seeing it more and more. I mean, really in anything. Some of them are at this point that I'm listening to hours on podcasts every single day on it, which is ridiculously dirty. But I just learned one thing literally 30 minutes ago and added it into my slides, so I'll have that in here. Just a little teaser. So we're gonna kind of talk about two things. We're gonna talk about just a little bit of the basics, kind of a little bit of the groundwork. If you're not familiar with AI, haven't really used it, heard of it, I don't know where to start with it. And then we're gonna get into some pretty cool use cases for it. Some fun ones too. So first off, next slide is just what is AI? It's artificial intelligence. Simply means technology that can think, possibly even learn like a human. But it doesn't need sleep, it doesn't need coffee, it doesn't need the weekend off. So the next slide, the best analogy is it's a super smart thing. It's not here to replace you, it's here to complement you, it's here to help you. Okay? Don't forget things. Instantly read pretty much every article ever written or anything you could upload or give it. You can use it for things like helping you draft emails. Maybe you typed out an email and you're like, "That's not come across very nice. I should probably proof that a little bit." It can help rewrite some of that stuff. You can use it to create graphics, listing descriptions, general text for social media posts. I mean, really, pretty much anything that you do, like you could find a way to utilize AI. Does it always make sense? Not necessarily. So that's what AI can be when you're really using it, when you know how to use it. So why does it matter to use a realtor? The biggest thing is it helps save time. It helps also help you save money because you can leverage it as your assistant. And those might be things that you would pay another person to do. Maybe you don't have enough to employ somebody full time. Help you sound more professional, especially when you're rushed. Really help you compete with somebody that might be a top producing agent because they've got to support the team of people they employ. Keeps you ahead of the curve instead of behind it. So when you're using it right, like I mentioned before, you're using it as a helper, not as a replacement. Help you add that human perspective. It can help you, but you still need to add that human perspective. You're sharing your own stories, experiences, things like that. You're just mass-produced content with AI. You're not going to stand out. You're going to blend in, and you're just going to. So you do need to check the quality on everything because it sometimes makes things up. Facts aren't always right, and it's a fabulous partner for helping you brainstorm. So just remember this. If you rely on it to turn out that math content, it won't stand out, but it'll help you research, generate ideas, and streamline your process. Real quick, a few key terms, because there's a lot of buzzwords and big words around AI, and what the heck do they all mean? Basically, AI is just the overall technology that mimics the human thinking. Within AI, there's something called machine learning, and that part actually can get smarter or learn from itself over time. If you hear something referred to as an AI tool, that's just the system. So that might be ChatGPT, might be Google Gemini, Claude, Perplexity. There's thousands. Then within AI, another common term is something called a large language model. All that means is it's trained on a ton of stuff. So there are AI tools that are created for very specific use cases. Like here's this one tool and it does this one thing. But then there are things like large language models, which is what ChatGPT is. It's universally trained on tons and tons of stuff out there, which is the training data. Then a prompt is one of the most common terms we hear in AI. And all that means is instructions you're giving it. Think of if you hired a brand new person and they are not from real estate and you're instructing them how to do something for the first time. That's all a prompt is. You're giving it the details and the instructions on what you want. And there are techniques on how to do that with prompt engineering. And that's just a framework to give you a very specific method to how you prompt it so that you don't just get generic results back. Because if you put a very generic post or a prompt in, your results are going to be subpar and you're going to be a little disappointed in it. If I put a social media post or an open house on Saturday, I'm going to get the most generic thing. Now, if I say, help me create a social media post for this listing at 123 Main Street or host an open house from noon to 3 on Saturday, and it is in the whatever neighborhood, I'm going to get something much more specific. If I can take it a step further and even highlight a few features of the home, it's going to give me something that I'm going to be probably 80% ready to use, and I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. And then I mentioned earlier, in AI, there's something called hallucination, and it makes stuff up. It can make up legal cases, make up laws that don't exist. It can make up quotes that are not even actually quotes. So you do need to double check. There's been a lot of lawyers and paralegals that have used it to help analyze things and case studies, but sometimes it will also make up an entire case study that didn't ever actually happen. Next, How do you get started? And the first step is really choosing the tool that you're going to use. What's the best tool? ChatGPT is phenomenal. Honestly, the best tool is what Claude is also. Yeah, there's a ton of them out there, but the best one is the one that you are going to use. And I recommend starting with the large language models like Claude, Gemini, or Chat.
How different are all those? Like, I mean, there's AI for stock trading, there's AI, that I think it's ChatGPT is now digested like 100 billion papers or some cycle number like that. Hold them all simultaneously. It's like, what is the better one? Are there ones for, I mean, I'm not interested in prompts and stuff, okay? I'm not interested in posts, I'm interested in like data, like how do I find,
Sure.
how would you find distressed homes? Give it back or something.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you ask me just generally what was the best one, and I gave you an answer today. If you ask me, excuse me, in 2 weeks, my answer might be totally different because that's how fast this is changing. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but my top four are ChatGPT, just as like a general work. Claude is phenomenal for writing. Google Gemini 2 weeks ago wasn't even part of my presentation. They launched a new version about 3 weeks ago now. It's now a top contender, and it is phenomenal with spreadsheets and data. If you want to load in some data and have you analyze it, Google Gemini. It's something that most of us don't know is that we actually will have Gemini as part of our KW emails. So you can go to gemini.google.com, log in with your KW email. You get the $20 a month version included with that email. You don't have to pay anything extra for that. Great. I mean, absolutely great with handling spreadsheets and data, analyzing trends, and I'll show you a couple use cases for that a little later on here. So basically, you choose your tool, and then you go to that tool on the web or with the app on your phone, and then you just start prompting it. You start interacting with it. And at first, it feels a little bit like we're in a 5-acre sandbox, and I just gave you a beach shovel and I said, here you go, go build something. That's what it feels like at first, and that's okay. One of the best things to do is just play with it. Type something in, see what it does. Change it up a little bit, and you continue back and forth. It's called ChatGPT for a reason, have a conversation. So when it comes to prompts, I could say something like, give me 3 Instagram captions for an open house this Sunday. And that's like I mentioned earlier, where I'm going to get that very, very, very generic response that's not even going to be helpful. On the next slide here, talk a little bit about the good prompt versus the bad. Bad prompt is that very generic. Write something about a house. Oh, what am I? Good prompt, very friendly email inviting first-time buyers to a 3-bed open house in Roseville this Sunday at 1 p.m. and include 2 features of the home. Now, if I gave it the address, it actually could go look at that home and it could highlight some things. One thing to know is if you are using Claude, which I mentioned is phenomenal for writing, and all of these have a free version and a paid version. Free version is free and the paid is $19.99 a month. So Claude does not have access to the internet as of right now on the free plan. So it won't be able to give you real-time data. I couldn't give it the web address or the URL for the listing and have it go like pull the information because it can't access the web. But ChatGPT and Google Gemini can. So for writing better prompts are giving it some clear expectations of what you want. And you can even ask it, help me write a prompt to do this. And it'll actually give you some feedback. You can even take it a step further. If you give it a little bit of a prompt and the response is a little generic, you just simply type in, ask me 3 questions to gain more context. And it'll come back and say like, okay, this is good. I also would like to know this. I also would like to know this, and all of a sudden, you'll be surprised at how much better it is. So again, have a conversation with it. Next slide, real quick. I'm just going to show you this is as of March, the end of March. These are the top 50 general AI tools based on how many people are visiting them on the website. We're not going to talk about most of these. We're not going to talk about Janitor, Willow but certainly not gonna talk about Spicy Chat AI. Hollywood, I don't even know what that is. I'm just showing you this for fun. Do not go to Spicy Chat. This one is the top 50 mobile apps for AI. So ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, Copilot, those are some of the big ones that are pretty universally always on this list. And ChatGPT is the one that most of us have probably heard of at some point now, because they're like Kleenex. They're like the name brand. Kleenex is just facial tissues, but we also call them. So we're going to pick a couple of those and we're going to get into them. But this is probably one of the most helpful things that I have heard recently when it comes to AI. Not opening a ChatGPT window and just staring at that screen and figuring out where should I start. But instead flipping that, you post a note right on it. AI help you with this. Stick it on your computer, stick it on your monitor or on the desk. And as you're doing things day to day, and you're doing something and you're like, absolutely hate doing this. I have to. Those are the things that look at that post-it and go, how can AI help you? And if you don't know the answer to that, open up ChatGPT and say, how can you help me with whatever you're surprised? Yeah.
I could just say it for Mother's Day. Like, good chat. It can help you. Hi, I'm last Monday. I'm looking to do this today.
Yeah.
Help me with that. And then when it does, you say thank you, and it like loves to talk back to you and get to know how you work a little bit.
Yeah, giving it that context so that it knows who you are and it's not just helping a person. It knows who you are as a person because you told it a little bit about you. Mine knows where I live and how many kids I have, and it knows that I like to garden and I fix my own things and I'm into technology and it knows those things. So the stuff it's giving me at this point is pretty spot on. Use it to help me write kids' stories with my kids. And my kids think it's awesome because these characters that they came up with are part of the story. And come up with little bedtime stories like that. But it's when I did it last week, it recalled a character from a story that 6 months ago we created. The memory is there. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah, you can specifically tell it, hey, remember this, and you can give it a fact so that it remembers it. But it's also going to just pick and choose things as you're interacting with it that it thinks it should remember. There is a spot in the settings where you can access the memory, and you can see all of the little chat bubbles, like a text bubble, where it's like, I remember this and I remember this, and you can have it delete things you don't want. But yeah, it makes exactly this. Sometimes it'll recall stuff from previous chat that I've had. It's like, no, that's not what I'm working on right now. And there's a few ways around that, but we can talk more about that. So when talking to AI, this is the prompt framework that I like. The first thing I do is I give it a role. I tell the ChatGPT, your window, whatever, who I want it to be or who I want it to act as. You are an expert copywriter. You are an expert marketer. You are an expert in social media. You tell it who it is, and now instead of it looking at the entire library of knowledge that it has, kind of narrowing down and looking at, okay, what do I know about marketing? What do I know about copywriting? Then the next thing I like to do is exactly like Rainey said, I like to tell it who I am. So you, to the ChatGPT, are an expert copywriter. I'm a real estate agent in the Twin Cities. So now it knows that it's a marketer and it's helping a real estate agent in the Twin Cities. I've suddenly given it so much more context so that it can create a better output. Then I go into what do I want it to do? And I flip those around. So you're an expert copywriter. I'm a real estate agent in the Twin Cities. Help me write 10 social media posts to use over the next 2 weeks. helped me create or come up with 10 Instagram reel ideas. So now I've told it who it is, who I am, a little more context, what I want to do. And then the format was included in that text task in this part where I said like Instagram reels, or I could say, give me 3 paragraphs, give me 2 sentences, give me a bullet point list. So that's the general framework I follow. And as you start to kind of do that a little bit, you'll really see it come alive. On the next slide, I just have basically what I just said. Let's go to the next one here. So an example of using that framework, you're an expert in real estate marketing, write a Facebook post about a 4-bed lakefront listing with an open house this Saturday at 11 a.m. Make it upbeat. Here I even told it kind of the style or the tone I want it to have. Make it 2 to 3 sentences long and include some emojis. And if it's not quite right, I'm just going to type right back to it and say, make it shorter, a more professional tone. Or add a question at the end to try to elicit them to interact back. And if I like it, it's pretty good, but not quite there, I could take that, I could paste that into something else, like Claude, and say, can you rewrite this if I want a different version? All right, now we're going to get into a use case scenario. Michael, I think you might like this one. We're going to look at analyzing market stats from SPAR. So what we would do here in the next slide, to help us save time, basically put that into the information that consumers or clients can digest. So if you go to spar.com, under the news and statistics tab, statistics, you can get into the fast stats. I like the monthly indicators. You could use this as any of the weekly stats or any of the stats on there. And I love the PDF of those monthly indicators. Next slide. Then what you do is you go to ChatGPT, just chatgpt.com, or Gemini, gemini.google.com. And there's actually a little upload button. You can upload that PDF and the stats you just downloaded. And I'm going to give it a prompt like this. And this doesn't exactly follow my framework. It's not part of it. I'm short of something up. Here's the real estate market stats for the Twin Cities region for Minnesota for the month of November. Help me analyze these stats and give me 5 talking points to use with potential sellers or potential buyers in this current market. And this is small. I don't expect you to read it. Basically, it gave me 5 points. Your home is likely worth more. Buyer demand is high. Homes are selling close to asking price. More homes are being listed, and strategic pricing remains key. Now, this was for February. There's 5 little captions that I could use, and I could post one every couple of days on social media. I could put them into a short little newsletter, anything like that. To take it a step further, this is the same concept. So you still download the stats so far. Level or leverage Google Gemini. They apply more of that framework. You're an expert in copywriting, and I'm a real estate agent in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I'm going to upload a report of the monthly real estate market data. I want you to help me analyze this information and turn it into content that I can share with consumers via social media, email, and text messages. Keep the language clear, concise, and easy for consumers to understand. Avoid overly technical jargon. I don't have a slide for these results because 8 pages. It gave me 3 different options I could use, and I have them. I can show them. You can look at them after. But it's like option 1, and here's your key findings, what this means, and it gave me a buyer specific paragraph and a seller specific paragraph. It gave me a 2 to 3 sentence social media post summarizing it. Gave me an email paragraph, and it gave me a text message. And it gave me 3 different options that I could use for that. So just by giving it a little more context, I went from those 5 bullet points to, I said 8 pages, but really there's about 2 to 2.5 pages of just 3 options. So I'll have those. You can look at them and send them to you if you want them. But just that little framework goes a long ways. Next, another use case, using Perplexity. And Perplexity is one that a lot of people haven't heard of, but Perplexity as a Google replacer. 20 years we've been trained to just Google things. Sometimes people will say, oh, let me just Google that, and I'll actually open up a different search engine. Still just call it Google. We've been so conditioned. But it's a really, really powerful AI powered search engine. It's not just a search engine, gives you concise, direct answers instead of just a bunch of links. Next slide. For Google, just sends you a bunch of resources, a page with a bunch of resources, and then you got to click every link and see, like, is this website good? Is that one good? Perplexity actually reads all of those pages and then just surfaces the information that it know. Fast accuracy, because it does give you the sources that it found all that information. Let's go on to the next one here, and this is basically the same framework. I'm giving it the instruction and some context, asking it to summarize the market report, telling it I'm a real estate agent, applying that same kind of framework. Next. So here's a couple of use cases. I could say I'm a real estate agent. I want to research the city of Roseville and why residents love to live there. I'm an agent and I want to know what are the latest trends in residential real estate. Or I want to learn about the architectural styles of homes in Minnesota. Something that I would have to do a little research to learn. This is just like that general framework again for each of the three. We'll skip through these because I'm condensing down my AI class, so if you get on the calendar here, to give you some of the highlights of it. So this is what Google would give us, the next two slides. How Google would give us about architectural styles in Minnesota. A little AI summary, and then a bunch of links, and the same on the next slide. That's great, but I still have to go watch those videos, click those links. I've got to adjust and process the information myself. So let's look at what it looks like in Perplexity. Actually giving me some photos. It's broken it down into different styles. So they're within the historic and revivals, Victorian and Tudor revivals and colonial revivals. It's giving me the sources. I can see it's cited 15 sources up at the top there. On the next slide, continues on. Here's some Midwestern influences, prairie style, classical bungalow. So it's giving me a little bit of info about each of those styles, but I just kind of want an overview of it all. That's a lot better than having to click through 7 websites. Started to use Perplexity a lot. The free version gives you a fair amount of searches per day, and if you really need to, you could upgrade, but I honestly don't really need to. All right, let's take a look at one way we can leverage it for social media posts. Could be you're an expert copywriter for social media. I'm a real estate agent to cities. To get more specific, say a city name. Help me come up with content ideas for social media posts for the next month. And now I did this within Google Gemini again. And on the next slide, gave me this where it said, okay, this could be my overall theme, spring into your next move with these 5 content pillars. Focusing on marketing expertise, buyer seller education. We want to keep it hyper local, have a little personal branding to it, and then maybe incorporate some listings and success stories. Next slide. Then it did this for each of the 4 weeks. It gave me very specifics. Okay, I can do a video, a reel, or short with the content of the Twin Cities Spring Market Update. Then with a call to action and hashtags to use. Then you can use this carousel post, this image, this Facebook or Instagram story. It did this same thing for 4 weeks for me. I don't expect you to read all that. But next, we'll skip this one. Use that same kind of concept for education-based content. So the next one here, you could use it for things like you're an expert copywriter. I'm a real estate agent. Help me write a blog post about first-time home buyer, about buying a home in a competitive market, about preparing your home to sell, whatever I want to do. So I can do a blog post, or I can do a newsletter, and give it a little bit of a context there with what I want the theme to be. And it could go on, and it would start to write that. And again, it's going to get me about 80% there. 80-20 rule. And you take your 20%, you make it sound like you, customize it a little bit, just make sure things are accurate. I could build something really, really cool if you give me something to start with. You give me a blank Canva window though, and my brain just goes blank. And that's where I thrive, and I think that a lot of people do. You don't have that writer's block of where do I start. Same thing for hyper-local content. This one I really like. So next slide. You're an expert copywriter, not a real estate agent who lives and works in Roseville, Minnesota. I'm always looking to provide valuable local content for consumers. And I really like to highlight things in the community to help me write a blog post highlighting some of the best restaurants in Roseville, best parks in Roseville, things to do in Roseville. And that's a great way to come up with a blog post, social media post that you can use. So just giving you a lot of ideas here. We're not actually going to go through and type it in and do all of that live because Abby would hate it if I'm dictating all of these prompts and she's back there typing it. When it comes to images, Ideogram is a really great one. Ideogram does have limitations, though. It'll let you make between 10 and 20 images per month for free. Paid account starts at $8 a month. But it's really, really good at creating images that have text in them. If you go to the next one, these are ones that I did this morning. I kept it generic. I went to Ideogram and signed up for a free account. And I put in an image of a house that looks like one you'd find in Minnesota with a large yard. Those are the four it created. And that was a very, very generic prompt. Three of them have snow. And then I did create a photorealistic image. So I got a little more specific of a busy Keller Williams real estate office with many agents. That's what I created. And those actually look like they could be photos from an office, maybe stock photos, but still. And you can now leverage ChatGPT for images. You've probably seen some of those images circling around the web over the last few weeks as people are doing all kinds of goofy things and funny things with those images. But their new model inside of ChatGPT, it's called Foro, will let you generate, I believe it's about 3 to 4 images for free per day. Free account. But paid account lets you do like 50 per day. Next. Here's one of the funny ones that was circulating around where people were taking their pet photo and uploading it to ChatGPT and saying, create a human version of my pet. And you might see like Batman there, and the expressions. Some are great, and some are frankly a little terrifying. But what I really caution you, really strongly caution you about doing is what you're about to see on the next slide, where I asked to create a pet version of my photo.
Can you just say it's spot on or something?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yes.
Pretty good. So, just the goofy things. You know, honestly, like I said before, it's like a 5-acre sandbox and a little tiny shovel. Where do I start? And my favorite way is just get in there and play around and do some of the funny things. You don't have to share them. And maybe you want to because it gets a good interaction. But it gets you familiar with using the system or the tool. Next. Action Figure was another common one. That one did a pretty good job. That one maybe is a little tired. It's circulated so much on social media. We're not really seeing that one anymore now. That's how fast things change with AI. Next, cartoonify your image. And again, these are just some goofy use cases. But I uploaded my photo and I said, create this image in the style of the Muppets, South Park, Futurama, do a color pencil sketch, you know, whatever it is. And you can do that for anything. I just wanted to do it just to see what it would do. So Barbie ones were common ones. You could do portrait style, painting, you could do any style. And then another fun one, what's for dinner? You're just trying to figure out, like, I don't even know what to make. I haven't tried this yet, but I've heard upload a photo of the inside of your fridge and have it go through and look at what's in your fridge and give you some ideas. But ChatGPT and Perplexity are both great for this. So on the next one here, ask it for dinner ideas, saying I want a quick dinner, I want dinner for a crowd, I need to feed 6 people. Do I want this type of food? Do I want Italian? Do I want Korean? You know, whatever style. Do I want pasta, salad, whatever. And you can simply ask it, it's going to give you about 5 ideas. And you're like, yeah, more. But sometimes it takes a few. So next, when you find one you like, great, I'm going to go with this one. Can you give me the recipe? gonna give you that full recipe. Next, couple of the directions to make it. And, oh, maybe I messed that up, go back one. That was actually the shopping list, not directions to make it. And then, this is what I learned this morning. Based on this shopping list, where are the best places to save the most amount of money to buy each of these items in Roseville? And it broke it down and told me the grocery stores to go to buy each item. Now, I'm not gonna go to 6 grocery stores to buy all this stuff, but I can see like, it looks like a lot of those things, Walmart, or Aldi, corn lockers for the sun-dried tomatoes, it's corn lockers still around. Either way, that was a crazy use case. I also heard that you can, when you're shopping for something, and you find a link on Home Depot or Target, copy that link and go put it in ChatGPT. They find the best place to buy this to save the most amount of money, and I heard it works. I haven't tried that. Is there anybody after me? Okay. All right. Now we're gonna get a little bit nerdier. I'm giving you some ideas here, and there's a lot, I know it is, but writing a property description for a listing that appeals to the specific buyer avatar that might be interested. So next slide. I'm going to provide the listing details. Or maybe just the URL to the listing on my website. I go pull the listing from my website and copy that thing. I could upload some photos, and I'm going to ask it to create a buyer avatar for what it thinks a potential buyer for this home may look like. So I'm going to give it that info, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create our content, whether it's a listing description, something to post on social media, caption for the flyer. We want to customize it to who we think might be interested in the property. And keep in mind the code of ethics and fair housing to make sure it doesn't violate either of those. So I'm going to tell it, you're an expert in psychology, psychographics, demographics. Help me create a buyer avatar for this real estate listing, and I gave it the URL for the property. Now, you don't have to click view results. I'm just going to show you what it created here, like 3.5 pages. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. Buyer avatar, the growing family achievers, the Thompson family. Mike is 40 and Jessica's 38. They currently live in a small starter home, maybe a 3-bed, 2-bath. This home was a 4-bed, 3-bath, so it's a little bit bigger. They're probably in around an 1,800 square foot home in a closer suburb, Maple Grove, Plymouth, or maybe even Rogers or Otsego. They're probably feeling cramped as their 2 children, 7 and 10 years old, get older, they need more space for activities, for friends, homework, things like that. They've been diligently saving, and they've likely built equity in their current home. Mike might be a management or senior professional role, like an IT manager, engineer, or sales director, and Jessica might work part-time or full-time, perhaps as a teacher, nurse, HR professional, small business owner. Like, that is wild. They're probably in their 30s to mid-40s with a household income of 150 to 225,000 combined, and it goes on, and it breaks all this down, what they're probably interested in, what their goals are, what kind of vehicles they might own. Ridiculous. The next. Now act as a professional copywriter, and this was my prompt. And this was all within the same chat window. Act as a professional copywriter and help me write a property description for this home. Focus on the buyer avatar you created. Please make sure to take the Realtor Code of Ethics and Fair Housing Act into consideration to make sure that the description does not violate either. And I gave it the link to the Fair Housing Act. There's Google Fair Housing Act to pull up that. And I Googled and downloaded the Code of Ethics. And I uploaded that as well. And what it gave me, it's not in my slides, it's too much to try to cram on there. But it gave me a full description that does not violate any of those. In fact, it even goes on to say, I took into consideration Code of Ethics, Article 10, and Articles 2 and 12. When's the last time you read those articles? Right? So it gave me this 2/3 of the page listing description that I could start with. It mentions the school districts that it is in. It doesn't say anything about the school, which is great, but it mentions the one it's in, when the house was built, highlights features of the house, address, square footage, talks about the floor plan. So it went to the listing that I fed it, and it looked at it. That's kind of a next level use of AI. And for anything that you do, once you've got it created for the first purpose, is recreate that. So right from this, I could say, now let's turn this into a series of social media posts, or let's turn this into a blog post or a newsletter, any of those things. So you don't always have to start from scratch. You can continue on with that chat and say, this was awesome, now help me create this from it. So you can just continue that on. And please skip all of the slides. I was flying. What questions do you guys have around AI in general or specific? Start here. You are not ready with AI. So what Gary's talking about is called a custom GPT. If you're a paid subscriber of ChatGPT, you can create a custom GPT, and it's basically it's its own little mini assistant that you can give it instructions in the framework and say, when I give you this, I want you to always do this, 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 and this. So I could actually build it and program it, and it's a lot simpler than it sounds. But I could say, you are going to be my listing description writer. I want you to always keep in mind the Fair Housing Act and the Code of Ethics. And when I give you an address, I want you to create a buyer avatar. And after you've created that buyer avatar, I want you to write the listing description. Then next time I just open up that existing GPT, and I'm going to say, here's the link. And it would spit it all out, and it would do that kind of in one fair swoop. Sometimes it misses, and you might have to, it'll forget the second step. Sometimes it'll make stuff up and say it'll do something it can't do. Done that before for me, where it created a survey, and it was like, okay, awesome, here's your survey. Would you like me to set that up as a Google slide for you, send you as the owner, and let you know when it's done? Yeah, great. Okay, it'll take me about 10 to 15 minutes. 45 minutes later, I was like, how's that coming? It's like, oh no, I can't actually create it. Yes, custom GPTs. A free user can go search the custom GPTs other people have created and use them. But to create your own, you gotta be a paid. You have a question up here.
I just like a lot about like the impact of like AI on the environment, like searches all the time. Is that just a bunch of like shenanigans, or but like have you heard anything about that and how it's actually affecting?
I mean, the energy consumption is very high by ChatGPT, by Gemini, by whatever the heck Amazon calls theirs. Those companies are actively trying to buy up computer chips anywhere they can because that's the use. So there is very high energy consumption, which is a concern to some people. And I don't know. I mean, my personal opinion on it is like, those computer chips would have gone somewhere anyways. So I don't know. That's a great question though. I mean, that's probably where it gets into the kind of the ethical side, I guess you might say, environmental impact. Yeah. Astronomical levels. I don't know. I can't count that high. I don't have enough fingers to know.
Right? Like, yeah, anyway.
A rhetorical thing. I mean, thing is that it would affect the environment a lot less than other energy.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, a person could maybe make the same argument. They would completely switch into electric cars. What kind of an impact would that have? Sure, we're not burning coal, but the amount of electricity, you know, so, and the amount of mining that goes into creating those batteries. So I think we could probably look at just about anything out there, kind of both sides. Yeah, I don't know the answer. These are questions for me. That was a lot that I crammed in there. Hopefully giving you some ideas. You know, I think just opening a free account if you don't have one on ChatGPT or try the Google Gemini one. And just go in there and start playing around with it. Ask it, say, I'm a real estate agent, what are the kinds of things you can help me with? Help me come up with dinner ideas is a very non-intimidating way just to kind of get in there and see how it works interacting back and forth with. I mentioned the kids stories, my kids think that's a laugh. I have with the Pave account, there's a voice, an advanced voice mode where I literally can just talk to it and have a conversation back and forth. I can interrupt it, say, no, give it context. So we'll go through and have it write little kids stories. I told them that my kids were 5 and 9, the two youngest. And so it geared the story towards a 5 and 9-year-old. My 9-year-old did the sloths, 5-year-old did bunnies. So sloth and bunny, kids named them. The bunny was a karate expert, was best friends with Taylor Swift, and she liked to bake muffins. And so it made this whole story with the advanced voice mode. And I was like, okay, like can you read the story to us now? And it actually did. And it had inflection, it changed its tone, it changed its volume and its pitch and its speed and all of that stuff. And I was even able to say, can you be more dramatic when you read it back? And my kids thought it was a blast. We put this 5-minute story back to them, and it was fun because they got to kind of create with it. We used a great coloring sheet for it too. Fun, goofy stuff, but those are the non-intimidating ways to kind of familiarize yourself with it a little bit. I think, do you need to use it heavily? No, you don't have to use it heavily. Should everyone kind of know a little bit about it and maybe use it for a couple things here and there? I think so, absolutely. Tool we can leverage.
What, if any, are like notable differences between ChatGPT and the same?
Yeah, so they're different companies. The two newest versions of both of them, ChatGPT and Gemini, not a whole lot of difference. ChatGPT, I think, is probably a little better with images now, creating images. It's great for brainstorming. It's gotten a lot better at how it sounds when it gives you output back, when it sounds more human and less robotic. Not a ton of difference, to be honest, right now. I think just as a general, like, I'll say Swiss Army knife, so to speak. I would say Gemini and ChatGPT are the two best ones. Claude still is really, really good for writing, but Claude has stopped or slowed down on their development. So they haven't really done a whole lot new lately. And the fact that they can't search the web is kind of a big deal because we want real time for recent information. So I go back and forth between using both. But I'm still relying on Gemini for anything spreadsheet data analysis. Because it's very strong at that. And it can tie right in with your Google Docs and you can create spreadsheets and things right out of there.
Spreadsheets, or is it just analyze spreadsheets?
Both. I use ChatGPT to help me create a business plan and come up with business ideas for a business I was thinking of opening. And I gave it location, I gave it all this info, and I mean, we had a 45-minute conversation, and it got to the point where it's getting actual floor plan layouts. How that could be set up. I fed it, I went to like the census website and gave it some information specifically about the surrounding cities and demographics. And help you to really digest and analyze it pretty much. And I did that before Gemini came out with their newest version. I should try it in Gemini just to see what the difference is.
We have Gemini.
More usage, deep research feature. So just prompting, you can have it actually like research things out. I did that and it spent 30 minutes researching, like it was thinking 30 minutes before it came back and gave me all of these results. So you can interact with it more and then get that deeper research. That's the biggest notable changes between the 3 and the 8. Okay. If you have any more questions, you know where to find me. We'll have some kind of a little bit more interactive classes on the calendar coming up. All right, thanks.
profit through the training room at 1 o'clock. So if you want more details on how to run your business, business versus just doing sales transactions, this is where you need to. So that's coming up here, and otherwise we'll finish up. Oh, 2 minutes early. Let's go get food. So go enjoy. Oh, yeah.
I got
Then I.
just one day, like. That guy, yeah.
You know, it's